Hi, my friend. It's good to read for you again. So I decided, since you were my first tarot reading that I ever gave to anybody, I would experiment with a brand new deck that I'm really unfamiliar with, but has been really fantastic for me, just in terms of soul growth and soul development and kind of like finding my purpose. And that is the Margaret Peterson Tarot. And honestly, when I say this deck is stunning, it's an understatement. So I'll just hop right in. I pulled 3 cards, which is like the answer to your question. Are you where you're going to thrive the most? But I also pulled a few advice cards and just like cards to shed more light on the situation at hand. So I'm going to be reading from the guidebook again because I think the guidebook puts the cards really eloquently, but I will be giving my intuitive information as well. So, what popped out for me is the Son of Coins. You can see the very, very fine dot work. The Daughter of Feathers. So we have Earth and Air, and the Ten of Flames. I don't know if you can see it through the camera, but there's a skeleton here in the flames being cleansed and clarified, and a phoenix is kind of rising of the skeleton. So this deck is really like soul-based, it's really watery. I feel like I could cry easily looking at some of the images. It's really good. So, I'm gonna get right into the Son of Coins first. So I believe this is like essentially the page of Pentacles and like a standard Rider-Waite-Smith based system. So, um, actually, I believe this is the Knight. The Sun is the Knight. So it's a very active energy in terms of like where you are in the physical world. And so this is all about how you can use your body and use your resources to create an environment that like best suits you in terms of like your soul purpose. And I feel like more and more people are waking up to their soul purpose here in the world. So I think this is like a really good card as a reminder to like really dig into and find what your soul purpose is, and then use your body and use your resources and use what you can like do here in this like earth plane to like help you create the best life for yourself possible. So also we have here the Daughter of Feathers, which I believe is the Page of Swords. But this doesn't, again, it doesn't follow traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, essentially. So the Daughter of Feathers, I believe it talks about how her mind is soft and supple and fluid, and how it can like change with the wind. So it's really important not to like box yourself into certain ways of thinking, and also to not fall into old negative thought patterns. So this is all about being fluid and adjustable and kind of like going with the wind, and not letting your mind gather dust. And what I mean by gather dust, this is a very, very active card. It's a card of movement, and you can see this figure here literally like dancing and jumping and flying. So it's a card about for your greatest good, you need to always be in constant motion. You need to always be learning and gaining new insights about yourself and others in the world, etc., so that you can help craft actively the life that you really, really want. Yeah, so I'm going to read a little excerpt from the Son of Coins here. And again, this is the first card here, Son of Coins. It says, through being aware of old thought patterns, I avoided the habit of senseless cycles. I have taken off the armor of my forefathers. Feeling my way towards the inside, I have begun to loosen up the hardness of my muscles. Using the way of yogic wisdom, I surrender to my body. My stereotypical world of ideas begins to dissolve. New connections are being made at the sacred bone to the end of my spine. I'm sorry, at the end of my spine. Following the way of this power, I feel the soft and the weak. My boundaries are shifting. With respect and awareness, I open myself towards new encounters. So I think that's a lovely way to put it, and I think that answers your question. Are you where you're going to thrive the most right now? And this very last sentence, I'll read it one more time, says, with respect and awareness, I open myself towards new encounters. And I think that pairs with this card really lovely, the Daughter of Feathers, because again, this is like a very active, moving card. It's not stagnant whatsoever. So I'll read a little bit from the Daughter of Feathers as well, because I think this book puts it so brilliantly. It says, I am dancing and jumping to and fro, stirring everything up. I am always moving and blowing the dust from rigid modes of thinking. I feed my old negative thought patterns and projections with movement. Nothing collects dust, nothing hardens, and nothing becomes rigid. My mind is supple and soft as the wind, weightlessly focusing my thoughts, effortlessly reaching my goal. Sorry. I jump from the specific to the abstract. I have left habitual posturing behind, and with every breath, I experience myself anew. So, again, in regard to your question, I think that's so beautifully put. I have left habitual posturing behind, and with every breath, I experience myself anew. So it's that sense of renewal and that sense of finding yourself and transforming yourself from old previous versions of you, because we're always evolving, we're always on track towards our higher self and our higher purpose. So this is a very beautiful reflection of that. And so again, we have the Ten of Flames here, which I'm also going to read about. And I think it's so beautifully put. This is like the fire of transformation and the fire of change. And so imagine yourself, imagine your body and like the old negative thought patterns and projections that you have had being just burned in the flames of transformation. And we can see that because the skeleton is here, the skeleton is charred to the bone, but above that, the phoenix rises. And whatever phoenix symbology resonates for you, I think that's very applicable here. But it's just so resonant to the idea of transformation and evolution to like greater spiritual heights, greater physical heights, greater financial heights, greater social heights, etc. So we're always on that ladder climbing upwards, as long as we create the physical environment and the mental environment for that to happen for us. So I think that's really beautiful. So yeah, those are the three cards I pulled for your question. I pulled some other clarifying cards, and the first one here is the Fool, and I love this Fool card quite a bit. So we see like just the smallness of the Fool. He's so little compared to this image, so you really get a sense of the vastness of the world and like the turbulence of the waters and the rockingness of the storm clouds above. We have like the sun and the moon symbology. There's a white eagle clutching to his robes at his side. So we still get like hints of that Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. But it is so stunning. And here we see the sun rising from the east, which symbolizes new beginnings and new paths forward. So I think this is a testament to just the fact that the world is so large, and you can obviously take the reins of your life and control it however you want to, but know that there are infinite possibilities where you can create a space for yourself to thrive. Can you thrive where you're at now? Of course, if you like have the correct mental capacity and physical space to do that, then of course you can thrive. But this is also saying that the world is so large and so vast so that you can literally create any sort of life that you want to and set off towards new cycles, new beginnings, and you will find great success in that as long as you create the environment for you to do so on an emotional level, a mental, a physical level, a spiritual level, etc. So I think that's beautiful. The next card I have here is the Nine of Cups. And I just love this image of the Nine of Cups. I'm not sure how familiar you are with tarot, but we have the oyster and the pearl here. And what happens to the oyster is that it gets a grain of sand or several grains of sand stuck inside of it, and that sand like digs into the oyster, and it's like it's a painful, sorrowful, traumatic process for the oyster, but at the end it creates this beautiful pearl. So the Nine of Cups is the sense of like well-being, but at what cost? The cost is obviously the struggles and the difficulties of life. And I mean, that's truth for anybody, honestly. And so this is, I don't know, I think this is a really good mental perspective, even though things may be like coming into your oyster shell and irritating you and agitating you and bringing you pain and misery and sorrow. Through resilience and vibing with the ebb and flow of the water, you're going to like see the reward. You're going to see the benefit in the future again, which is the beauty of the pearl. So I quite love this Nine of Cups. I think it's beautiful. Through pain and misery come reward and abundance and beauty and all great things, of course. So the Two of Feathers here. I'm not super familiar with this Two of Feathers actually, but twos are all about choice and decision and duality. So we have two paths forward. Am I going to stay where I am now and sort of like take things as they come in my life presently, or am I going to open the door to like this brand new future? So I can either stay where I am now, or I can choose to leave and create my own life the way that I want to. Not saying that your life now is like miserable, because I'm not sure unless it like actually is. But there are always these two decisions that you can like contemplate, but until you actually open the door and physicalize it, you're always going to be stuck in the same plane of existence. So I'm actually going to read about this one because I'm not super familiar with this Two of Swords. I'm sorry, Two of Feathers. Yeah, it says two arises from one or the ace and becomes the opposite or counterpole of the one. So it's the duality of the two. Air element, we have the Two of Feathers. It says, bring the stream of your thoughts to a stop. Observe your inner dialogue through meditation. Realize how chains of thoughts are formed and how they freeze into automatic thought patterns, doubting and pondering. Just for a moment, let your thoughts come to a standstill. Feel the power of the space that lies between a dying and a newly forming thought. So I think that's beautifully put. Enter space of meditation and really think about, really contemplate on like a mental level, but also through a heart level of where you think you would best thrive, or like what you need, or what you need in your given environment that you don't have already so that you can thrive as well. So I think that's a beautifully put statement. The last card here is the Nine of Feathers. I think this is a really powerful card too, because we have like the screaming face and the eyes and the red. There's like a little silhouette of a feather here. And so I feel like this is pretty traditional to the Rider-Waite-Smith Nine of Swords. It's pretty close. But this talks about how you have total power over your life. And I think the guidebook says something along the lines of, you have the power to leave the realm of your nightmares. All you have to do is gain mental clarity and use the power of discernment to exit whatever anxieties and fears and difficulties your life presently is offering you. So I'm actually going to read that one as well. And if you would like me to read any of the other ones that I have not read out loud, feel free to message me, and I will gladly do that. Because again, this is a beautiful, beautiful deck. And things are put so well here. The Nine of Feathers says, killing by not acknowledging. Feel the pain of rejection, expulsion, and being abandoned. Go back into the roots of your fears and look closely. By looking closely, you deprive the demons of ignorance, which is the food of their nourishment. Walk towards that which you reject in fear. Make a conscious decision to dive deep into your own being. So I think that's beautifully put. So, so beautiful. So it's about taking power and bringing acknowledgement to like the shadow aspect of your mind. So like your subconscious, etc. So how can you dig into your fears and traumas and rejections and pain and sorrow, and how can you transform that into a beautiful pearl? Because if these thoughts just sit there and they're not like doing anything for you and you're just ignoring them, you're basically feeding your demons through ignorance. So how can you take these traumas, these shadows in your life, and how can you polish that into a beautiful pearl? How can you polish that and create something constructive out of it? And I think when you deal with these demons, when you deal with these fears and sorrows and pains, you're going to open the door to receiving new information on how you should live your life. I believe. So, I think that's all the cards I have for you now. Again, I have not read with this deck a lot for other people. In fact, I still need to reference the book for myself just because it's so complex and it's so not any tarot deck I've been familiar with. So I hope that was exciting for you, and thank you for letting me experiment with you on that. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will send pictures of the cards too.